probably seen Bobi Wine, The People's President. It's the Oscar-nominated Peabody Award-winning film that documented his movement. That film did something crucial for global consciousness. It refused to let the world see Uganda's politics as a settled question. It reframed African politics as a foregone conclusion, with people merely existing as passive victims. It made visible the complexity and legitimacy of a youth-led movement demanding democratic voice, freedom, dignity, and the right to prosper. I'm very much looking forward to the discussion. I hope we gain a better understanding of the situation in Uganda, especially over the past 6 months, and of course, to discuss what better alternatives look like. On behalf of the Department of African Studies, we welcome you and thank you, especially Mr. Wine, for your sacrifice and vision. I want to take a moment to thank the leadership of ASGSA, that's the African Studies Graduate Student Association, Miranda Rivers, Innocent Ekajioba, and last but not least, Awasho Anjulo. Thank you for organizing this. I want to extend a special gratitude to Mr. Milton Alamadi of the Black Star News for reconnecting us. Without further delay, I present Mr. Bobi Wine and Mr. Milton Alamadi. Thank you.
Let's give another round of applause to I have some questions that coordinated collectively with the department. But before I get into those questions, I would like to ask everyone a more personal question. After the elections on January 15th, your home was raided by the military. Your wife, Barbara, assaulted. Many of your supporters didn't know what had happened to you. It took almost 2 months before people realized you were still alive. Would you like to talk a little bit about that as an introduction before I get into the specific questions? Because sometimes we tend to forget that you have a family. You're talking about human beings here. We're not just talking about who wants to become what we are. So talk a little bit about that on a personal family note, about that experience. And in as much as you can say how you managed to get out of Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Greetings, sisters and brothers. I'm very honored to be with you today. My real name is Tabulani Sentamu, although I'm known by my musical stage name, Bobi Wine. On January 15th, we had an election, a presidential election, and that was the second time I was running for president. I first ran for president in Uganda in 2021. That story is all summarized in a Netflix documentary, in a Nat Geo documentary that is on Hulu called Bobi Wine, the People's President. It was a long, sad, miserable story. But in January this year, I ran for president. We held the polls on 15th, and immediately my wife and I had cast our ballot. We were surrounded by the military and placed under house arrest. The following day, on the 16th, we were raided, but I escaped from home because I had learned earlier that there was an order to harm me fundamentally, an order issued by the Chief of Defense Forces, the head of the Uganda military, who is also the son of General Museveni, the president of Uganda now. I remained in hiding for over a week, and on the 23rd of January, Once again, my house was raided, my wife assaulted, family members assaulted, and my wife ended up in hospital. Luckily enough, she used her smarts and escaped from her hospital bed and was able to make it out of the country with our children. I remained in the country for the next close to 2 months until I was also able to still make it out of the country and be here. Now, why did I escape from my country? There were orders, not private orders, but these orders were all even tweeted by General Bobi, who is the head of the Ugandan military and the son of the current president, who issued an order that I should be delivered to him, dead or alive. He followed it up with another order that I should be found by the military and castrated. Now these are still on Twitter as we speak right now. Of course, this follows the constant bragging. He is also quoted, having tweeted that he had killed 23 of my friends, and these are not numbers, these are real people. And he was hoping that I'm the 24th person he gets unkilled. This is a person that has abducted my friends, including my personal bodyguard, tortured him, not in silence, but live on social media, shared him hair and beards, and then tweeted the naked pictures of him. This is the same person that raided the home of my personal political assistant, expecting to get me there. They thought that is where I was hiding. They didn't get me, and they abducted the wife of my personal assistant, held her in the military barracks for 37 days. In those 37 days, so much nasty things happened to her, but among which she told us that they even removed her contraception, the IUD, from her. Now this and many other abuses are done, especially to women. Knowing that was the case, I knew what would befall me if I fell in their hands. That's how I ended up here. Now many people, especially back home, especially those that are in support of the regime but are trading under the Pan-African banner, were criticizing me of ending up in America and not in another African country like Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and all these others. But we all know that the dictatorships back home are intertwined and look up to one another. We have a very known political icon called Dr. Kizza Besigye, who was the main opposition leader for so many years before I showed up. He was abducted in Kenya by Ugandan security, driven across the border in a car trunk, and right now he's in prison in Uganda, having been presented in a kangaroo military court. Many other citizens have been abducted either from Tanzania or from Kenya and other countries. That is how I ended up here. I'm not here to seek pity. I'm here to seek solidarity with Africans and citizens of the world, because I know that time immemorial, the liberation of oppressed places has been successful with the help of their diasporas. That's why I'm here. I could go on and on and on, but I hope that's introductory enough for you.
All right, so let's stick with the theme of the military for now. And when people think of elections, you have to really put it in the context of Uganda. Describe what is referred to, even by international media, as the election in Uganda. When, in fact, when you're campaigning, there are certain places you could not have access because you were watching this being screened by. You were blocked by the military, you were blocked by the police. There were no-go zones declared for you, and your convoy was being fired on with live bullets, and some of your aides were struck with live bullets. And yet, people still showed up to your campaign rallies. Could you try to explain that? Why are people willing to take that risk to come to your campaign rallies, even though they know that there's a very high likelihood of violence must be meted out by ground forces and police.
Thank you. What keeps bringing the people to listen to the message of change is hope. It is only hope, and hope, the stubborn hope that drives the people. What keeps us going is the desire to keep that hope alive. We've said it many times that Uganda is the second youngest country in the world. We are young, we are broke, we are hungry and angry. We could pick guns and remove that government, that oppressive regime. But we know history has shown us that violence does not produce peace, it produces more violence. And we also know that it's painful, but non-violence is stronger than violence. That's why we stuck to non-violence. So we went into this campaign like we did the other time, well knowing the kind of regime that we were facing, but it was the only window for us to connect to the people, to interact with the people, and to awaken and arouse them, and we achieved that. Yeah.
Okay, so our next question is the role of outside countries. And the question is, how do international actors, whether it's governments, China, or multilateral institutions, and of course that includes the World Bank and IMF, how do they shape the political outcomes in Uganda? And how should African leaders navigate these influences while maintaining sovereignty? Well, in the case of Uganda, it's a bit different because he's maintained his sovereignty for the last 40 years now. So you can talk about that in Uganda's case, but generally in African countries as well.
Thank you very much. Sovereignty has a completely different meaning back home. Just like elections, just like democracy. I mean, these are words that are used and thrown around whenever desired by the authoritarian leaders back home. In the context of Uganda, much as we got independence 63 years ago, in 1962, I don't look at us as the citizens independent. The regime in Uganda for over a decade has been receiving up to $1 billion every year from the United States, let alone what comes from Europe and other countries. But this has been a transaction not between the people of Uganda and the development partners, but between General Museveni and the development partners. It's unfortunate, and this we've been reiterating it, that we are oppressed, not because we are weak as the people of Uganda. Africans are oppressed by dictators, not because they're weak, but because those dictators have a wind in their wing, and that wind are the so-called development partners. Allow me to call them oppression partners. Why? Because these are democracies, and if they wanted us to have democracy, we won't get it. I'll take you a little bit back. Idi Amin was supported by the British until they had enough of him and others. The apartheid regime was supported by the West until they had enough of it. I am very sure that if America or Europe did not agree with the oppression of the people of Uganda, they would stop it by disassociating with it. The regime in Uganda and many other authoritarian regimes in Africa have their bloodline, have their support, have their survival tied to the developed world. While elections are being rigged, all we get are statements and not action. On 18th and 19th November 2020, hundreds of people were massacred on the street in Uganda. Yes, we are glad we got some statements of condemnation, but we did not see any sanctions being slapped on those people that killed Ugandans in cold blood. And that continues again and again and again. So, yeah, the dictators are there, but they get their survival from the foreign partners. Today, Museveni is in business with China, and because of that, the biggest survival source, which is Lake Naruba, they call it Lake Victoria, is out of bounds for the local fishing communities. Why? Because the Chinese are using it. The foreigners, for as long as they are white or have white skins in Uganda, are much more regarded than the citizens. It can go on and on and on and on. Much of the reason why we come to the developed world is to call them out. We know that apartheid thrived until the documentary was shown here in America against apartheid, and until there were widespread protests of Africans and friends of Africa condemning apartheid, that apartheid was defeated and it broke down. So we come here, not because people back home are not church. When you look at the campaign, the masses, young, old, male, female, educated, uneducated, rural, urban, all turned up to show their desire for change. But the dictator was able to subdue them by killing them, by abducting them, by raping women and men to cow them down. And yes, that succeeds because the Western world closes their eyes. That's why we come to spaces like this, well knowing that a student at Howard University might be a singular student, but you agree with me that you, especially who come from Africa, are so followed and so honored and so respected. To raise this voice, maybe this voice will be echoed by you and get our friends, the American population, and those in the administration that you can reach out to ensure that they are provoked, at least their conscience is provoked to change the narrative back home. Thank you.
All right, so I want to ask you a question about the youth movement and how you galvanize the youth in Uganda. Uganda is one of the youngest countries in the world. 80% of the population is under the age of 35. But before you respond to that question, and the importance of the youth movement in Africa, we've seen some changes in countries like Senegal because of what the youth have been able to do by coming out in the streets. So I want you to address that, but before that, I want to carry on to what you said in your last remark in terms of how the global community was galvanized to fight apartheid in South Africa. And I've always thought about this. Do you think it was much easier to get a global movement against apartheid than to try to galvanize a global movement to go after an African government which may actually have repressive policies that are comparable to apartheid regime? Maybe speak on that and then segue to the youth.
Thank you. Why was it easier to get the global movement against apartheid up and running than now? I wouldn't be very quick to say it was easier because Mandela was in prison for 27 years. And even before then, there was oppression. In fact, I believe it took longer. Why? Because there were prisoners there. Maybe because they were white. But again, I'll tell you that the challenge that I see is that back home we seem to be quick to condemn an oppression by foreigners and to close an eye to oppression by our own king and king. Oppression is wrong, whether by white people or by black people. Now, oppression during apartheid, during colonialism, brought us all together because we were oppressed as Africans in our own land. Unfortunately, majority of our liberators turned into oppressors. There is one song that I sang and said, see our leaders become misleaders and see our mentors become tormentors. And that's exactly what became. When you look back, most of the oppressors, most of the dictators were once freedom fighters. I was named after Robert Mugabe. My name is Robert. And my parents gave me that name because in 1982, Robert Mugabe was a prized revolutionary. And we had so much hope in him because he was speaking so highly, he was giving so much hope. Bobi Museveni himself, the ruler of Uganda, He used to speak the way to speak, only more eloquent when he was much younger. But unfortunately, as time went on, power corrupted them. And again, even more unfortunately, they found justification for that oppression, that anybody, especially the young people that rise to the occasion and say, we are the future and we want the opportunity to determine our own future, they are quick to black the agents of the West. That is an unfortunate bit, and that is why it has become so hard for us to fight, to free ourselves, to be able to determine our own destiny, because there is always that narrative of the past. You talked about the youth movement or the youth surge, and we appreciate that. And it inspires us from South Africa to Zimbabwe to Uganda and now to Senegal. I was in Senegal when Sonko was in prison, when the then president was trying to change the constitution so he could run again and again and again. But it took strength of the people of Senegal to resist that, and that is how the new generation rose to the occasion. I'm just glad that the new leadership, the young leadership of Senegal was raised by the people, was mandated by the people, so they must be in many ways answerable to the people. Thank you.
What the young people will accomplish in Senegal. I think that ties into the tail end of the question that I posed. To what extent can youth benefit?
These administrations here, these Western capitals, is we're not asking you to save us, just stop funding, stop sponsoring our oppression, stop harming them, stop obstructing our mode of life for the values that you oppose, for the values that you profess every day: democracy, the rule of law, and respect for human rights.
So maybe I'll just pose 2 more questions and then I'll open it up to Q&A. On the issue of Pan-Africanism, do you see the prospects for stronger regional or continental solidarity among other movements in Africa, or are these struggles still largely international political systems?
Yeah, speak from politics because I wanted it. No. It was desperation. It was in that image of the person running for president. But I don't even used to dress like this. I'm a musician. I was a musician. That is concerned. But before then, as you know, stars are so sought after. And in a country like Uganda, the powerful I was not affected by the oppression because I was rich, I was popular, and everything. It's just this one day when I was walking out of a nightclub with my Cadillac Escalade with 24 spinning wheels, when I was attacked by a young man my age, but he was a security operative, and he slapped the hell out of me. What was my crime? Showing off. He asked me, why are you showing off? Don't you know this country has owners? Well, that was because all the girls were looking at me and I was in the middle of the night. That for me was a wake-up slap. It reminded me that regardless of my stardom and my musical success and my wealth, I was not safe in a country where there's no justice. And since then, I started changing my music from entertainment to edutainment, a song about the rights of the people and the oppression. And it took me a whole 10 years, from when I was 25 until when I was 35. I realized that much as I was communicating, still nothing would change until I went to the platform where these words matter. And therefore, 10 years later, in 2017, I ran for MP because I wanted to go to Parliament and speak these words. So when I went to Parliament, in that election, good enough, people are connected with my thought line, and I won 80% of the vote, competing against the main political party and the opposition party. Still, I did not believe in partisan politics, and we started a political movement called the People Power Movement. But as time went on, I was pushed to challenge General Museveni first, to stay alive, because I had come so outspoken that if I was not anywhere where the eye of the media would focus on me and I would be safe, then I would be in so much danger. I ran for president, and here I am. But again, why do I say that I don't want to be representing a particular grouping, even when I lead a political party, the main opposition political party in Uganda? I know that Uganda, like many other countries, is now divided between oppressors and the oppressed, not between ruling party and opposition, no, between oppressors and the oppressed. Why am I saying that? Because there are oppressors, oppressed people, even within the ruling party. General Museveni's son, who is a military commander, had his birthday yesterday, no, the day before yesterday, and he issued an order that every soldier has to show up and run to celebrate his birthday. He issued an order that every government official must come and celebrate his birthday, even when he himself was not there. And he tweeted had to show up because it's so frightening. Imagine a military official in a government of Kim Jong-un. They are scared to death. So those are oppressed people within the ruling party. And yes, they are oppressed within the so-called opposition. Because we have so many members in the opposition whose major goal is not to put an end to the dictatorship, but to improve their status within the circumstances. So, what I see as desirable is galvanizing the people, regardless of their political party, to, see the truth and follow the truth. Now, you ask, how did we then morph from a political movement called People Power to a political party called the National Unity Platform? Now we unveil this political party only 1 month to the election, because our movement could not be registered. It was an instruction by government not to register it as a political party, and yet I was going to run for president, and many people that we associate with were running for various positions of office. We came to an agreement that we cannot just be, sloganeering, and we cannot just be complaining. We chose to sit down and present an alternative. And so we ran for leadership. We got an unknown political party. There are so many political parties that were, registered so many years ago, and they remained on the papers. So we signed it through a proxy that was crafted, but we have to do it. Through a proxy, we changed this name, and we had a delegates conference where the leadership of that party elected me president, and boom, we showed it. The regime could not change anything. There had no alternative. The international community was watching. So they let us run, and that is how we ended up being a political party. Why then do I think that it is necessary for other people in the same circumstances to do the same? Because there must be an alternative. We must criticize what's being done wrong, but also we must offer alternatives. Because when we remove the dictatorships, there shouldn't be versions. There should be ready alternatives to spring us to the next level.
Okay, final question. You ran for parliament in 2017, as you recounted, and you defeated the ruling party candidate, I believe, by 2/3 or more of the vote. And then you endorsed 2 or 3 other people who ran for parliament against the ruling party candidate, and all of them won. And then I guess the decisive showdown was in August 2018, another parliamentary election in Arua, where Museveni himself went to campaign for the ruling party candidate, and you went to campaign for the opposition party candidate.
We won.
And he panicked, I recall. And he accused you of inciting people to throw stones at his convoy, and the opposition candidate was arrested, you were arrested, beaten, and tortured, and the opposition candidate still won. even though I'm serving a campaign for his candidate. So I guess that was the basic point that you started. Party. You came to the United States for treatment, and many people didn't believe you would go back to Ghana. But not only did you go back, you ran for president in 2021, and you ran again in 2026, even with all the threats. Some people might wonder, why do you do that? Is the risk worth it? Explain.
Every risk for freedom is worth it. Because in this life, we either live or we exist. I want to live. And you cannot live when you're not free, when you don't have the right to kind of destiny. So I went back home because I had to go back home anyway, whether I live or dead. You know. I went back home then because I needed to keep that hope alive. I had run for my life, but still, it wasn't a solution to stay out. You might ask me, are you going to go back this time? Yes, I am. I'm only trying to make sure that I make it harder. Or at least more costly. Yeah.
So now we go to the best part of this event, which is of course taking your questions from the audience. So let's see, maybe we'll take
five, 6 questions, and if people could come up and line up if you have questions. Because we only have one mic. Okay, and please keep your questions concise and precise. Short.
All right, so let's keep it brief so we can get everybody to at least further questions.
Maybe, in addition, I'm sorry, maybe if we could make a conversation, you ask a question, maybe I get to respond to it when it's still hot.
First, let me say thank you so much for bringing Bobi on. I was so excited when I saw the union last night. I'm from South Africa, and I've been following you and your struggles and your sacrifices. It's one question, but I want to list 11 issues that I think South Africa had that you don't have to raise your struggle in Ghana. South Africa, one, had the clergy, that's number 2, had organized labor, that's number 2, had ANC exile, leaders in exile, who had international work, it had the Amsterdam, which was in exile as well, it had Nelson Mandela in prison, it had the mass democratic movement inside the country, it had international solidarity, friends against apartheid. Number 7, young white kids started to die in Angola at the Battle of Kutakulemani, and the white parents started to complain. Number 8, international sanctions, economic, sports, and cultural boycott. Number 9, musicians in exile. We're highlighting the plan to talk about Pacific people. Number 10, the civilized civilians inside the country committed to making the country ungovernable. What do you have?
Controversies, you have.
That's why I said abstract. What do you have? It looks like the odds are against you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, my South African brother, Siabonga. South Africa had all this. He had Mandela in prison, he had court overseas where the armed wing had clergy, it had musicians and leaders in exile, name it. What we have? We have everything. Then the next question will be, why are you not succeeding yet? I'll tell you, my brother, that we were back and work soon and married the way back. That a person who you used to commit crimes with, or a person who you used to steal with, when they sleep behind the house, you won't sleep. Now, these African dictators are yesteryear's freedom fighters, and they have studied the factors that those that are yearning for freedom, that help those that are yearning for freedom get free. And unfortunately, they've not studied them for the benefit or betterment of their people. They've studied them in order to crush their own people. First, the clergy. We have the clergy. We have the Inter-Religious Council, which is supposed to be the most moral religious body in Uganda. Unfortunately, it has been reduced to a pool of subjugation. Just the other day, the head of the Church of Uganda was on TV telling Ugandans, I am not here to serve you. I am not going to be we have a great religious leader, the Archbishop, the person who was occupying the same office in the days of Idi Amin was killed. His name was Archbishop Jan Nduum. He was killed by Idi Amin for speaking truth to power. And now the person occupying that very office is telling us that if you speak against the government, you get killed, and Jesus, because Jesus was killed for the same reason. Number two, they are musicians. I'm a musician myself. But as we speak now, my music is banned in Uganda. And so many people are in prison for being called playing my music live. There's a lady we bought the car last year, her name is Marinos. She was caught and raped repeatedly in the military for being found playing my music. And as if that's not enough, there is a budget enough to build 2 hospitals has been given to musicians. For General Seven, because he understands the effect of music, the power of music. He used music in the armed struggle. Now, some Ugandans, of course, have made an effort over the years to start armed. In power, stop weapons, and we don't want to drive them. So we are cautious not to take them where they have strength, violence. That's why we maintain. And violence. We'll go on and on, but the summary of that is that these dictators have taken time to even get started people. Now, What do I think is going to be the solution to avoid that? I mean, everybody that is looking for power or looking for freedom, as we say, to present ourselves as if looking for freedom and if we're looking for power. And after getting that power tends to corrupt those leaders. So what is the solution to that? The solution is number one, make sure that we are not looking for a liberal, but for galvanizing. But for galvanizing ourselves. We don't need they're not well governed because they are very good leaders. No. They don't stop this corruption because the leaders are so moral. No, you've seen that even here in America, you see any nonsense from the leaders. So we should build an empowered citizenry. To hold the leaders accountable, to make sure leaders are servants and not bosses, and to constantly remind those leaders that if they pretended to what they pretended to fight against, they can and will be kicked the head out. Leaders must be held in a constant state of tension and be reminded that they are servants and they govern in the interest and on behalf of the people. So let us not look to liberator, let us all be liberators. I believe that is the best way. Finally, the foremost is to have a vote. I don't need to be a world-class economist. No. I just need to have a vote and to have the entire population have the power to listen to what you're presenting to us and what she is presenting to us, and to have the right either to vote for what you're presenting to us or what she is presenting to us. We want the vote. We want the ability to be able to decide what we want, and that is honor. As simple as that. Thank you.
Mr. Senator, thank you so much for coming. My name is Dennis Gonzalez. Born and raised in Ginger. In 2021, I was among the young people that were really excited to come out to Uganda and vote for me. And I made it possible to be there in time and actually gather my fellow young people to come and vote. You know, we actually went back and forth with our parents because they were like, oh, we need to vote for this person. We're voting for Bobi, and that's why we flew in. We wanted to vote for me. I can actually escape coming back because after the election there were so many roadblocks. We were rounding up people, young people and all that, and we had to pay some people to get those shortcuts out to the and we finally made it. question. What is the way forward for a lot of these young people that are in prisons? They've been there for a long time. They continue being arrested. We've seen countries around East Africa like Kenya where political parties have come together to negotiate the way forward. My question and my maybe plea is, would you be open to negotiate if that option was open? Or have you ever thought about that route? How can we move forward as a nation? Because if we have a giant in there that is unshakable, or we've tried to shake him, but it's coming at a big cost, a lot of people are dying. This happened. I was in Zimbabwe, I went to school in Zimbabwe. And I saw what dictatorships do. Firsthand, I was there. We've seen the chaos in Kenya, where there have been so many Kenyans that have fled into Uganda because of political unrest. But a lot of political parties, I can't remember the name of the opposition leader at that time in Zimbabwe, young man too. Yes, Shangrai kind of stepped off and thought ways to negotiate the way forward. So you've had friends that have been in prison and are still in prison. We have young people all over the country. Ginger, where they have been rounded up. I have some friends, they were released, but they were taken in jail as well.
Thank you.
What is the way forward? Sorry, my question is what's the way forward?
Thank you very much, brother from Uganda. Studied in Zimbabwe, so you have the grip. Are we willing to negotiate? Negotiate what?
Right. That's the question.
I mean, everything that we're saying, we not to run for president. I run for president. These young people come up to support me because it is legal and moral. And we were nonviolent. We went out to campaign. We were rounded up and thrown in prison for years. Some have spent more than 5 years. Others were killed. And yes, the regime in Uganda reached out to those who are in prison and told them that the only way they would leave prison is to accept that they committed a crime and to apologize to General Museveni for being hoodwinked and fooled by me into going into opposition politics. Now I fail to understand what crime is there. Of course, many of them were forced to apologize and they were released. Others refused because they don't see any crime they committed. And again, they were being accused of terrorism. So the government told them for them to be released, they must accept that offense, get out and get out. So for somebody to get a tag permanently on you for being a terrorist, even if it's unacceptable, of course they're kept in prison with no trial whatsoever. They just die there. And as for me, maybe if I'm in a negotiation, there's something you give and you take. What should I give? To promise that I will never challenge Museveni again, to promise that I will never talk about the wrong things that are being done. Finally, for us to negotiate, maybe the first thing should be to declare the law useless, because we have laws. I'm convinced that I've not done anything wrong because I've never been arrested or I'm convicted, only harassed. So, for us to negotiate about something wrong, then that would mean dismissing the law. I'm not after power. Power sharing is for people that want power. I just want to be free. And if there's a law, let that law be followed. Because, okay, for me, what if I negotiate and say, okay, I'll have what about those that are looking at us, that are looking at the truth that we're speaking? Does that mean that all of a sudden what we are saying is wrong? What we are pushing for is to see the rule of law respected in Uganda. It's to see human rights respected in Uganda. So among those three things, democracy, the rule of law, and respect for human rights, what would you want me to negotiate? What would you want us to give up? For us to say, we want them all because they are fundamental and are provided in the Constitution. Thank you.
And let's try to keep it brief because we're so pressed for time. So everybody, you have 2 minutes behind you and then wrap up. Go ahead.
Nice to meet you, Bobi. I am Jason. We studied Rawuchigodu. I was born and raised in Tinda, Kampala, and I'm a graduating student at the Business High School at Liberty University. And my question for you is, what ways and what things can youth do to advocate for issues back at home?
I'm sorry, the last word.
In what ways can our youth here in America advocate for issues back at home?
Man, you're eating the words. One.
How can they use the way that they can advocate for change back home?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much. What ways can youth advocate for change back home? First, get involved in any way that you can. Uganda is a young country. Take charge. These things that we're doing, we're not doing them so that we accomplish the mission. We might even die along the way, but we want to inspire others so that it does not, the cause does not die with us. So many people came before us, even that they awakened us. And we are doing this to lead by example. Get involved. We are in Howard University. It's one of the world's best. Here where we are is where Kamala Harris studied. And indeed in other universities in the developed world. We've had people like Kwame Nkrumah, like Dr. Bote, like
Nandi Azikiwe.
Exactly. Many of them. Now you are the Nandis of today, you are the Nkrumahs of today. Get involved.
And
My presence here.
And march to the Ugandan embassy.
Yeah, but before that, get involved. Take that charge. Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, or any other country where you come from, it is your country. And by the much of the fact that you are here, means you are our cream de la cream. Okay? I'm a Christian, and we are told that to whom much is given, much is expected. I'm a ghetto child from Kabucha. But maybe God brought me to come and spark you guys that have every. You are much more educated, much more positioned. Take that church, you the young people, that is step one. Get involved. Obama used to say it and I agree with him. You are the hope that you've been with. That's one. Two, use other tools. If you don't lead, at least be the wind beneath those that are leading. While the cameras and lights shining on me, there's so many people behind me. These words that I'm saying are not just my words. These are conversations that we have with so many other people, those that are not bold enough to speak out, those that, don't have the opportunity and charisma to speak out, but they have the thoughts. So if you cannot lead from the front, lead from the sidelines, empower and support those that are leading the cause that you believe in. 3. You see that phone right there? Man, that's more powerful than a gun. Use it. We're in the age of social media. You see, everywhere in the world, on the internet, everybody has followers. But where are you leading them to? Lead them. You know, awaken them. You, the intellectuals, have read so much. Where I was in a bookstore, I saw many books that identified their mission and either pursue it or betray it. I've no doubt that you, the noble students of Howard, the great Howard University, I've no doubt that you know your course. Now, you're only left with choosing either to pursue it or betray it. So, get involved in whichever way. We are ready to follow you. We trust your brains. We just need you to trust your heart. Thank you.
My godfather is Ronald Grandmazel, the current mayor of Kampala. So yeah. Research firm. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much for your courage. You have inspired so many in the continent of Africa. I come from Kenya, and every time the young people in my family hear Bobi wine, they celebrate you. So my question to you tonight is there a movement that is beyond Uganda that is uniting young people to stand for their rights? I know in Kenya when they started killing the Gen Zs, they were saying you will kill some of us, but some of us will survive. But the government was so ruthless to a point where people started feeling afraid. But you are courage, you haven't been afraid. You have been very courageous. And I'm wondering whether there is a movement around you that transcends Uganda, a Pan-African movement, so to speak. And the young people here that you are encouraging to do this, they need to be in a movement in order to really respond to the challenge that they have in front of them today. And you know, social media is amazing. And I'm really hoping that you will go back to singing regularly so that we can hear your artistic skills challenging people to think, because sometimes a politician's words are disregarded.
Yeah.
But as an artist, you have more influence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my sister. I appreciate the compliments. But allow me not to take too much compliment. When you mentioned that I'm courageous, I don't see myself as courageous. I see myself as desperate. I mean, yeah, every now and then I pretend to be courageous. And it works. Some people don't believe it. But our grandfather Nelson Mandela told us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to either overcome it or pretend. I've learned one thing, that when you pretend to be courageous, you end up being kind of courageous. So I just pretend to be courageous because there is no alternative. Then, man, I fear death like everybody else. I want to be able to raise my children, see them graduate, see them get married. I also love life. But it's desperation, the absence of an alternative. And that's why we do this. And I mean, if there's anybody out there that sees the way we do it, I would encourage them to do it. When we were in the ghetto, we used to love the saying that fake it until you make it. So when we face the soldiers, we look in their eyes and pretend to be tough. And guess what? you tend to realize that they're also not as tough even when they're holding those guns. So it's that spirit that shows up when you talk or when you pretend to be tough, especially when you're standing for what is right. Toughness actually embraces you and you become very tough. Now, whether or not we are thinking or having an African movement, that is one thing that is very, very important. Very, very important. We are in touch with some brothers and sisters, political leaders, especially the young ones across Africa. But it should be more than that. It should go beyond the politicians. Because, man, it is harder to trust a person that is running for political office, however genuine their intentions are. Because politics does not barrierize and reduce to interests, reduce to a pursuit of power. So we should have more activists, more women like yourselves, who are into this for the spirit of motherhood. We should have more young people involved, so that it is not just the politicians, because politicians are very easy to reach out to and silence or compromise. However, I take note of that, and I also promise to work more and work better and harder in that line, because indeed this gives an isolation. What has the Kenyans, has the Tanzanians, has the Ugandans. And in India, you will notice that a dictatorship in one place can very easily contaminate democracies around it. General Museveni has shown us an shown us an
Salaam.